Big snow swings mean snow chances are rising further to the south and the east when it could start to fly in today's video. Welcome in, folks. Happy Tuesday, November 25th, and hopefully we're having a wonderful day out there, wonderful evening, and getting ready for Thanksgiving. We're going to get some big snow for some of us this Thanksgiving. It's after Thanksgiving, though, through the start of December. I've been telling you about for really weeks now, and the pattern just continues to look juicier and juicier over the past couple of days. We've seen some pretty big model swings that indicate our track for these potential snowstorms could be a little bit further east and south than maybe it looked a day or two ago, and I'm sure that's news that many of you are excited to hear about. Now, nothing is a slam dunk right now. We're still analyzing the data. We've got time till we get to these snowfall chances, at least for some of us. Others, again, like I said, it's going to start flying here pretty soon, just in time for Thanksgiving. But we're going to break down all of the possibilities in today's video, and I'm going to show you the data that backs up my thinking. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Gerald. I'm a meteorologist at WCCB Charlotte. If you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Doing all those things are free. It doesn't cost you a penny. Doesn't sign you up for some service. All it does is help keep you weather-wise and informed here as we enter this active stretch ahead. All right, let's dive right on into it, folks, and give you the latest. Looping next to me that you've probably been having your eyes glued to as I've been talking here is the latest afternoon run of our European computer model. This is one of our more reliable pieces of data that we have available to us. And you can see it's showing multiple storm systems tracking through, a lot of snow for some, and getting mighty close to big snowfall totals for others, especially at the end of the run there. A piece of energy I'm looking at right around a week or so from now that really has my attention for some wintry mischief potential that is kind of new in some of our data that we've been looking at. Before we get to the week out, though, and what that system could potentially bring, let's talk about what's going on out there right now and some of that big lake effect snow coming in time just for Thanksgiving. And I do mean big lake effect snow. We could see feet of snow for some of us. Now, out there right now, we've got a couple areas of low pressure. The big parent low right now, or the main one, getting cranking right now over the Dakotas and Minnesota. We've even got blizzard warnings up for portions of North Dakota and Minnesota as that one cranks away and brings big snow. To the south, though, a lot of Gulf moisture getting pulled north, and we are seeing some severe weather even today down into Dixie Alley, Alabama, Mississippi, even into portions of Georgia, seeing some of that. We've got some rain to the north of there, up into the northeast, where another weakening low pressure is currently set up. But behind this main low that I mentioned, we've got a lot of Arctic air spilling down into the lower 48. And that's going to set the stage for a higher snowfall potential later on. Obviously, you need the cold air first before you ever get snow, generally speaking. So that's going to be one of the key ingredients we take a look at. In terms of radar right now, you can see the snow I mentioned earlier. It's snowing good in Fargo. We had some good snow into Bismarck, Aberdeen, up into really much of northern Minnesota, including the Beak there, International Falls. Ely, I believe is how you say the name of that town. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But all rain right now for Minneapolis, although expected to change over to snow later. Speaking of all rain up into the northeast right now, the mid-Atlantic, and then, yeah, some severe weather with some active thunderstorms down towards Birmingham, Atlanta, Montgomery, Selma, and even down towards Hattiesburg and Mobile right now, dealing with some of that severe weather. Where's it going, though? Well, that's a great question. Let's go ahead and look at some of our new model data and time it out for you. Well, let's mix it up a little bit today. Normally we use our HRRR model, but I'm going to use the RGEM today. I think it's actually doing a pretty good job of timing this out and showing the potential. So this evening, we are going to continue to see some of that thunderstorm activity down into the southeast, good old-fashioned cold rain into the mid-Atlantic and northeast, and then you can see that big snow up into Minnesota. Overnight tonight, we're going to switch to heavy wet snow, puking snow, as I and some others like to say, up into northern Wisconsin, into the upper peninsula of Michigan, especially the western portions of the UP, and then into Minneapolis. Also going to switch from the current rain we have to snow as cold air starts to wrap around that low pressure system. You can see that cold air as well. You see these blue lines right here that I'm kind of shading in black. That's that shot of Arctic air that's kind of funneling in behind that system and doing more than enough to switch over to snow. All rain. Now, we could see a little bit of overnight severe weather into South Carolina, North Carolina. Don't rule it out. I think mainly a stable atmosphere here, but don't rule out, again, some gustier winds, maybe some thunder. Cannot completely rule out a brief tornado, but I would not be overly worried about it. You see the rain, though, continuing to work eastbound, and this is by the time we're waking up and getting into early tomorrow afternoon. We've got rain still working on through the northeast, trying to hold on a little bit into the Atlantic, the mid-Atlantic, that is. But I think by tomorrow evening, here's 5 p.m., we're drying out good into the Carolinas, Georgia, the southeast. We still got snow, though, and pretty heavy snow into the upper peninsula of Michigan. Much of Wisconsin at this point shifting off into the eastern half of the state and the western shorelines of Michigan. The mitten there getting blasted with some lake effect snow. Now, obviously, lake effect is probably going to be skinny bands here, so not everyone will be seeing it at once, but if you are seeing it, it's going to be rocking and rolling there. Still got some rain, maybe a little bit of thunderstorm activity up into the northeast for tomorrow evening. And then here we go, waking up Thanksgiving morning. At this point, the lake effect machine cranks up, and these are some impressive lake effect bands showing up on our model data, folks. I mean, that's the real deal. They're up into the upper peninsula of Michigan, the northern mitten, the western shorelines, into Erie, Buffalo, around Cleveland, into the Tug Hill. Yeah, this is some real stuff in terms of lake effect, and could even see some northwest flow snow down into West Virginia. And even areas potentially a little bit further south than that. By Thanksgiving afternoon and evening, yeah, it's puking snow off the lakes. I don't know how else to put it. It's rocking and rolling. Also, very cold air, especially considering how warm it's been for some of us, funneling into the eastern U.S. That's easy to see with this big blue line I mentioned earlier, dipping south. It's a big trough or a big pocket of cold air, and keep that in mind because that's going to be important here in a moment when we take a look at the next system after this one. And the lake effect just continuing, even into your Black Friday morning, just plenty of lake effect ongoing for a lot of the same areas. And you begin to see our next system taking shape back out towards the west, and that one too could produce some active weather. All right, let's show you the snowfall total potential out of this first round with the lake effect, and then we'll break down the next system, and then the one after that, like I said, has been shifting a bit in the models. That's looking pretty interesting. All right, here's the same model I just showed you, snowfall totals, and this is accounting for the ratio of the snow, and you start to notice pretty quickly we've got some pretty big totals. Now, this is just one model run, so take it with a grain of salt, but I think the totals here are generally, somewhat accurate as to what we can expect. The biggest winner out of this is going to be the western UP of Michigan, where we could see 2+ feet of snow from now through Black Friday evening, so plenty there, obviously. Places like Minneapolis, I think a good 1 to 3+ inches for the most part. We're probably going to get a belt here into north central Minnesota and northern Wisconsin that get 1/2 foot to a foot before all is said and done. And then the lake effect continues to crank up. Check out the mitten of Michigan. I also think the northern mitten here could see some isolated spots that get 2 feet of snow out of this before all is said and done. So big totals. And even through much of the western shoreline, we're going to get pockets of 1/2 foot to a foot. Some of that could even try to break containment here and get into portions of maybe northeastern Indiana. Could also see some snow out of this. Now, lower certainty down here into this pocket, but the areas I'm going to circle here in yellow are where I really find the highest confidence in the forecast that this model is showing. So again, the northern mitten and then much of the upper peninsula and even through portions there of northern Wisconsin. The northeast also going to get lake effect snow out of this. Less so here compared to our friends over in Michigan, but a good amount on the way. The Tug Hill probably going to be a good 1/2 foot to a foot. Again, this is now through, well, actually, let me move it all the way out to time. There we go. That's a little more realistic. The Tug Hill probably going to be more of a foot to a 1.5 foot. Looks more likely up that way towards Watertown and surrounding areas. If you're watching in Erie, Buffalo, or Cleveland, you know how it is. It really depends exactly where the band sets up, but the highest totals easily could be 1 foot to 2 feet plus. Remember though, that means a town over could get that and you could get some flurries. That's just the way lake effect works. If you've lived here for a while, you know that by now. If you're new to this part of the country, then you kind of just have to nowcast it. But those of you that get the big totals, they will be big totals. Trust me, 1 foot to 2 feet plus in isolated spots. All right. That's snowfall totals from this. Let's talk about how that cold air that kind of oozes in behind this could set up shop for the next storm and what kind of crazy model swings, honestly, that we've seen over the past 24 to 48 hours means for snowfall chances further south and east. Here's how the pattern looks to evolve after this shot of cold air right around Thanksgiving, or really right before Thanksgiving, I should say. Here we go. So that is a pretty transient shot of cold air, meaning it's kind of in here and then it's out of here. But here's kind of where the changes have come in the model data. Now, up to about next Monday or so, it looks pretty similar to how it has the past couple of days. We get a shot of colder air that kind of dives down into the western and central United States, indicated again by those blue colors. That means a trough. Again, it's just kind of snow miser colors, as I say, although blue on this map does not mean snow. It really just means a pocket of colder air. But what's changed is our ridge here has really wanted to shift further offshore. The southeast ridge that I've been talking about for the past really week or so now, I think, or at least it feels like it, is shifted further offshore. So because of that, this next shot of cold air looks like it's going to actually keep moving further east and south into the middle of next week. So about a week or so from now. And with that, that's going to bring higher in storm chances. And that storm chance could be snow, ice, or just good old-fashioned rain. And we'll talk about that here next. But I do want to show you this change in kind of more of just maybe normal way to look at it in the models. So notice here how it starts off right here is the oldest model run, and see how all the blue is further to the west. And then as it starts clicking ahead, we start to see that that ridge over in the east and that blue start to shift further to the east with it. So that's kind of the big change that we've seen in the model data over the past day or two. And because of that, that means the forecast has changed a little bit. Let's talk about how that is and where snow chances might be increasing because of some of these changes that we've seen. Well, whenever you allow the ridge to move further offshore and the trough to get stronger and move further east and really dig more as well, that means the energy associated with it is going to want to do the same thing. So this is going to get a little complicated here meteorologically, but that's why we have the YouTube videos here. We got plenty of time to explain it, so I'm going to do my best to explain it in a normal way here. Now, this is a vorticity map or a spin map, and basically you need that to get a storm system to form. A low pressure, you need some sort of spin in the atmosphere, and where you see the brighter red colors here, that's where we have more spin in the in the atmosphere here. So as we move it ahead into time, this is this Saturday. By this point, you can start to see our next system start to work on in from the Rockies. Here it is, starts diving down, and it wants to ride that boundary of cold air that's set up shop right around Thanksgiving. So notice it drives down, but by that point, like I said, it's a transient shot of cold air. So it's kind of moving away, or I should say the cold air is moving away, and this is kind of catching up to it and following it. So because of that, I think this next storm by this weekend is going to be more of a northern stream dominated piece of energy here. So that means higher in snow chances again in the Midwest, portions of maybe the interior Northeast, heck, even parts of the Ohio Valley, at least the northern portions of the Ohio Valley could get in on some action. But then we have the new change in the model data, and that's for next week. This is the next shot of cold air, and you can already see the piece of energy associated with it on the edge of the cold air is where we originally expected it. It's kind of down into the desert southwest into California, but because the trough is now more progressive, meaning it's continuing to move and isn't getting stuck out here, that pushes that stream of energy further south. And look at the next storm track showing up by about a week or so from now. We've got a much further south piece here on the European model, which I'm showing you here. That's riding, heck, as far south as the Tennessee Valley and even into Dixie Alley a little bit, and kind of does something along this path that you see unfold. And that would be a pretty favorable storm track potentially for snowfall in the Ohio Valley, maybe the Northeast, including portions maybe of the I-95. Again, it's not a slam dunk right now, but it's more favorable at the very least with a look like that on the model. The GFS model kind of shows a similar changeup. Here's the weekend storm. You can see all the energy again pretty far north with that one, but then comes that next slice of energy, dives down into the Four Corners and stays much further south. Same thing by about a week from now. This is next Tuesday. You can see that new trough showing up and all the spin associated with it working right through the deep south through the Carolinas, and anything to the north of that is where we would have enough cold air kind of locked into place to potentially get some sort of maybe wintry mischief to unfold. Now, that's kind of the nitty-gritty stuff. Let me show you just the flat-out model runs. What did they show in terms of precipitation? And then we'll get into the ensembles and talk about the likelihood of that actually unfolding. All right, here's the European model. And again, remember, this is not a forecast. We're just looking at guidance here, kind of comparing it. And then whenever we look at the ensembles here in a moment, that'll be much better of a take it as a forecast kind of thing. But nonetheless, what did the European model show this afternoon? Well, here's the first storm. This is by Saturday of this week, so the day right after Black Friday. We've got big snow unfolding into Iowa, Minnesota, even into Chicago. But, generally speaking, more northern stream dominated like we've been talking about, kind of the usual suspect areas. It's rain really for southern Illinois, Indiana, much of Ohio, but snow to the north, and then obviously rain further south, and tries to get maybe a little bit of winter weather into the interior northeast, but not that big of a deal for most areas further east and south. Then comes the next piece of energy, and the trough again starts to work much further south and east than originally expected, and you start to get low pressure to begin to form and develop by about a week from now, much further south, more of a Gulf Coast rider, if you will. And you can see what begins to happen is it follows that new boundary of cold air, which is trying to push south, and you get a bit of an overlapping. You've got a pretty strong storm system right over South Georgia into South Carolina by next Wednesday. That could produce some active weather, and then it overlaps, and you get a nice band of snow into West Virginia. Heck, tries to get snow into D.C., Baltimore, gets it mighty close to Philadelphia, New York, Boston, and that's a big time storm that develops and gets mighty close to overlapping with that cold air in a big way. So that catches your eye. You start to look at it like, okay, well, that's interesting, right? What about the GFS model? What did it show? Or are they on completely different wavelengths or something kind of similar? Well, the first storm, pretty similar. More of a snow event into Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, up into the Great Lakes. Rain further south, but then drags down another shot of cold air. And yeah, check it out. It's mighty similar to the European by a week from now, even a little bit further south and east. Almost wants to get snow in places like Nashville, West Virginia. Like I said, DC gets a thin band of snow. Heck, as far south as almost the North Carolina line. Much of the I-95 tries to get snow to unfold with a run like the GFS, and then it gets that piece of energy on out of here. Now, that's great and all that the models show that, but obviously some big caveats. One, we've had no consistency with them showing this. This is a relatively new thing. Two, it's a week away. So, we're not talking 10 to 15 days out. It's not completely throw it in the garbage, but far enough away that you want to start seeing consistency. The first place to do that is in the ensembles. What do the ensembles show? Does this have any legs? Well, yeah, it does a little bit. Let me show you. We'll start with the European ensembles, and one of my favorite maps to show you at this sort of range is just what is the likelihood of seeing accumulating snow within about a 24-hour period. Obviously, with the next storm or the one coming up right now into the Great Lakes, pretty high chance with a lot of lake effect ongoing. Then comes that weekend storm down, pretty high snowfall chances into Chicago, Wisconsin, like I said, Iowa, Minnesota, up into much of Michigan, but still a relatively northern stream dominated storm, and could get a little bit of winter weather on the onset of the system into the interior northeast, but then likely warm air takes over. Here comes the next piece of energy, though, already showing up out into the Rockies, producing big snow by Monday into the Rockies. And then check out the path of snow chances with this one. It starts to get further south, gets it into Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, Indiana, Ohio, and then up into the Northeast. You can see that path a little bit further off to the south and east. Where it doesn't show high chances are in some of the areas that maybe the operational model showed, places like, we'll say Nashville, Charlotte, Raleigh, into even southeastern Virginia. Not very high chances at all in the ensembles of seeing snow there, but not nothing into the northeast. I mean, you've got, let me go ahead one more, let me back it up one more frame right around here. So already about a 40 to 50% chance into much of New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, western Massachusetts, portions of Connecticut. You got about a 30% chance in northern New Jersey, about a 20% chance in Philadelphia, New York. Boston's probably more of a 30%. So, it's a new signal, but it's one that at least is showing up. Now, obviously, the exact rain snow line, well too far away to know exactly what that would look like, but it looks like there will be a storm, and it looks like there will be cold air at least somewhat nearby. You can see it on the GFS ensembles as well. Here's the weekend storm, basically the same thing as the European. Then the next signal is further south and east on the GFS. It has snow chances through all of Virginia, the Delmarva, all up through the I-95, even down into portions of Tennessee, into Kentucky. Heck, even tries getting about a 10 to 20% chance of snow in places like Greensboro, Raleigh, and single-digit chances, down into Charlotte. So very small numbers, obviously, at this point, and I'm not forecasting snow at all in a place like Charlotte, Raleigh, Greensboro, Norfolk, Nashville, but areas further to the north, maybe northern Virginia, up into the northeast, the Ohio Valley, not a bad look at this point in the models. And obviously, we've got cold air, that's something showing up, and we've got some sort of storm nearby. And you put those two things together, and it's definitely worth watching here into the long run. Either way, it still looks like the MJO is going to work with us here. We've been talking about this for many days now. We're starting to get into phase 7. That's when things become a bit more wintry. That process really happening right now and over the coming days. And then by the time we get through about the middle of December towards Christmas, the favorable pattern looks to stick around. So even if this one doesn't unfold for exactly where you're watching from, I think really all of December continues to look quite active, as I've been forecasting really for the past 2+ weeks now or so. Alrighty, that's all I got for you folks in today's video. Exciting times, exciting swings. Some of us higher snow chances today than it looked like yesterday for that first week of December, but obviously more swings to come, and we will continue to watch them and give you the latest. All right, y'all have a great one. Stay safe. Think snow. Have a great Thanksgiving, obviously. I'll still have a video tomorrow, but giving you an early great Thanksgiving wish there. Anyway, y'all have a great one. I'll see you all next time.